Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm back at my house, not on the road with a poor connection. I apologize for last week. It ended up being glitchier than I realized it was being. So, thank you very much for watching or trying to watch. If you did, I know I had a couple people contact me and say I tried, but it was so glitchy. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Just going to give everybody a minute or two to come on. I know, 9 o'clock. I don't know. If there's another time that you guys would prefer, please just send me a message. 9 o'clock works well for me because it gives me time to get home from dropping off my kids and making a coffee. But if there's a time that works better for you, I can absolutely be here at another time where you can watch live if that's what you prefer. So I have a beautiful adornment on my wall, and it's the phases of the moon, and that's kind of what was my inspiration for this week's chat about the phases of childhood. Because, when I guess I would have been pregnant with Lena, so Nash was just a year old, just over a year, and we were out visiting friends on the East Coast, and one of them had children, and she said, I asked my mom, oh my gosh, when is this phase with my child going to be over? And her mom said, just as soon as the next one starts. And that really stuck with me because through all the phases that our kids have gone through, that's exactly how it goes. You know, this one behavior that you were either loving or hating lasts until there's this sort of like dimmer switch, and then it comes back on with new attributes, and they're in this new phase. And our son is just about 12, and this new phase, let me tell ya, driving me crazy. So if you haven't had an opportunity to read Monday's email, please go ahead and check your inbox. That gives you a nice sort of intro to what we're doing today. If you don't get my emails, you can sign up for them at oneselfcoaching.com, my Facebook page. Send me a DM with your email address, and I can add you myself too. There's tons of ways to be a part of our community. So I'll get right into it. As I was saying before, our 12-year-old son feels like overnight he's gone from this sweet, interesting, kind guy to this mouthy, gotta have the last word little punk that has commentary for everything. He's really good at that kind of like muttering under the tongue after you say something, and that just sends me because I want to have the last word. I'm the parent. I'm in control. And when he does it, it just flicks a switch in me. And then I say something, and then he says something, and then I say something, and that never works out well. So I got to tell you, I am clearly not always mentally and emotionally prepared to deal with it. I have been yelling. I have been crying. I have been up at night. And I've been reading because it helps me to know why things are happening the way that they're happening so that I can just have a better understanding of how to handle them and how to deal with them. So what is happening with my kid, right? So now, because I love you guys, I'm going to share a little bit of what I learned in the hopes that it might help you out as well. Sorry, my computer is doing a thing. Okay, so I literally, when I start working on this topic and I'm thinking about it and I go on there and I'm like, 12-year-old boy moods. There's me on Google. 12-year-old boy moods. What a rabbit hole I went down. So I kind of knew some of this stuff already, but in case you didn't, around 12 years old, the human brain finishes growing physically, like this, but it's still really far away from maturity. And the prefrontal cortex, this is the part of our brain that helps us stay organized, control our impulses. That part of our brain, that prefrontal cortex, wherever you're looking at, anyway, it's in there. That's not ready. That needs more fine tuning. And so, I mean, if you think about the way that your child has developed up until the first 12 years of their life, the physical changes alone are astounding, right? Like, you went from inside my body to outside my body. Now you're shoulder height on me and you got a mouth on ya. So that physical stuff is still happening at a slightly slower rate, but there's lots of chemical and hormonal things happening now. And I don't know if you remember it, but that's not easy stuff. And it may take until the age of 25 for a lot of people to have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. And that's if you don't have stuff to deal with, right? Like trauma and abuse and things like that. That's like for the normal average person, prefrontal cortex working fine around 25. So while it's beginning to spend the next 12, 13 years developing, your prefrontal cortex is able to start thinking and grasping ideas that are more abstract than they could sort of comprehend before. Logic will also sort of settle in a little bit, which you might not be able to see due to the mouthiness. But cause and effect is becoming more real for children of this age, and they can more easily see the ties between what they have caused and what the effect is. Now, are they gonna verbalize that? Are they gonna say, yes, my actions created this? Probably not. But know that they are making those connections in there. The other thing that you might notice if you have a daughter or are around girls this age, that they might have started this sooner than the age of 12. Girls tend to, I didn't want to really go into that because I want to talk about my son today, but girls tend to begin this process a little bit faster than boys. So aside from everything that's going on in the brain, physically there is an awful lot going on too. I mean, it seems like he's taller every morning than he was the night before. Like, this kid's got such long legs. He's getting lanky, wants to wear his hair long and shaggy. Boys his age are also noticing that there's some private changes happening too. Testicles and penis are getting larger. Hair is showing up in places where they used to only make fun of it on their dad. And eventually his voice is going to deepen. And because of the increase of testosterone that's now coming through his system. And I've got a really, really great quote here. For many adolescents, these changes can be stressful or uncomfortable, explains Dr. Cardona Correa. The physical changes the early adolescent experiences often create a stage of self-focus that itself may lead to concerns of physiological distress. So when your children were babies, teething bothered them, gas bothered them, things like that. They were not nearly as aware of what was happening with their physical and emotional and mental changes. They're just not there. But now your child is aware that there's something happening that they've never experienced before. It can be unnerving. It can be kind of scary. I mean, I remember going through some of these changes myself, and it was not fun or pretty. My mom has the pictures to prove that. Now, socially, kids are also moving into a stage where their parents may have to vie for position of authority in their own kids' lives. The opinions and the actions of their peers will play a bigger role now than almost any other time in their lives. And this scares the crap out of me, seriously, that my son would value the opinions and the feedback of other adolescent boys over me. Now, don't get me wrong. I know he's going to make stupid choices and he's going to have regrets about some of them. And some of them are, all of these things are critical to him growing up as a well-adjusted, responsible young person. But I wish I could do that for him, that he'd be able to come out as that person on the other end without the experiences, right? Yeah. I mean, we want to protect our kids. And there's a really fine line between paving the road of their life, removing the obstacles, steamrolling things, so that their life is easy and comfortable, because it hurts us to see our children suffering in those ways. But without that, let them walk down that gravel road, let them trip, let them fall, let them skin their knees. They can't be that person you want them to be. That person that knows what it's like to experience struggle and have to come through it. And that doesn't mean they have to do it alone, right? You can walk down that road with them. Just don't pave it. Don't go moving everything out of their way. I mean, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I think you understand why that's not as beneficial as it feels. Anyway, I want to get back to my impulse control. Because ultimately, I'm a coach. And my 12-year-old son, or almost 12-year-old son, does not want to be coached. I don't coach children, not my jam. I coach adults, mostly women, mostly parents, and myself. So I'm doing some coaching with myself around this. And my impulse control is difficult to manage when he is getting lippy with me and his dad. When his dad's having a conversation with him and my son is getting lippy, I just want to just interject. And I do, and it bothers my husband, God bless him, for tolerating that. But it's difficult for me to control myself. There are times I want to smack my kid. I really, really do. I mean, it's funny because it's true. I want to just wipe that little smirk right off his face, right? Now, seeing the parts of myself that I judge the most critically in my children is the hardest parenting pill I've had to swallow. It's this crazy combination of, if you would just listen to me, you would avoid so much extra work, heartbreak, pain, you name it. Why aren't you listening? And then there's also that flip side, like, you better wipe that smirk off your face or I'll do it for you. I don't know if that was ever said to me or if it was just something I learned growing up, but it's in there. Now, I don't want to feel violent. I do not want to inflict physical or emotional pain on anyone. But my own prefrontal cortex goes completely offline. And I'm in full-on reptile brain. The amygdala, that's your reptile brain. That's your instincts. Fight, flight, freeze, that's it. That's what it does. It keeps you alive. Prefrontal cortex says, okay, we're alive. Let's assess, let's deal. But my prefrontal cortex shuts the hell off, and boom, there I am, hanging out with the amygdala, ready to fist fight my own kid. Okay, so it feels really gross. like watching a bad horror movie when you know something bad is going to happen to the main character if they do the thing that they're ultimately going to do, and you cannot prevent it no matter how loud you scream at the TV. This is parenting an adolescent. Raise your hand if you've been there. Okay, so now what? How can I help him navigate these waters while I too am navigating these waters? I've not been here before. Even when our daughter gets to this age and gets to the stage, which is right around the corner because she's only 20 months younger than him, it's going to be different for her. So I'm learning as much as he is. So the first thing, after reading and, consulting my own personal values and coaching myself, what do I want to do? The first thing I want to do is stay connected. Now, we have always been open about the human body, how it works, how it looks, and what they're all about. So I'm going to continue discussing these things with both of my children. So that they have accurate information. I don't want some other 11-year-old boy telling my 11-year-old boy how his body works. That may not be true. I want to make sure that he has at least access to accurate information about his body, how it works, and how girls' bodies work. There's also going to be less stigma around it. If we are able to talk openly about sex and bodies and how they work and anatomy and biology, that will give him so much confidence. There's about a million other reasons why it's a good idea to have these conversations, and I'll put a link to a really good resource in my notes today. So the other way I'm going to stay connected is Lego and Minecraft. Okay, these are the most important things to him right now, and as painful as it is to hear him go on and on about these topics, that's how he chooses to share himself with us. The parts of himself that he's the most proud of, he's laughing, he's smiling, he's, hey, look what I did. And if I brush that off, that's going to have long-lasting effects. So I'm not going to close that door. I'm going to keep listening and asking questions and encourage his creativity. Another really cool way that we stay connected is that we have a show that we watch together, just the two of us, like an episodic show. We don't watch it without the other one, and no one else is invited to watch it with us. And this kind of dedicated time together, it's not on a schedule. We haven't obviously watched it since before we went on our vacation, so it's been a couple weeks. But when we're able to just snuggle down and sit in that room together and watch our show and discuss it, and I can be interested in it and ask him questions and have him be the expert on it, that shows him that I care enough to be connected. Moving on, as his physical body changes, I would like to put more effort into doing physical things with him too, like going out biking or walking. Not just for the physical aspect of it, but because this is a really good time to have those in-depth conversations without him having to look at your face. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's been my experience that I've had more meaningful conversations with my children when I'm engaged in driving, cooking, biking, walking, because they don't have to feel the intimidation that comes from looking into an authority figure's eyes. You and I can look into each other's eyes while we speak because we're peers. But your children aren't feeling that with you. You are their first and their foremost authority figure, and it adds stress for them to have to look you in the face. And those skills will come, right? But I don't need to push him into looking me in the face while he's having a hard time telling me about something private. Okay. Last but not least on the connection thing, and this I sometimes have trouble doing, is curb my enthusiasm to interject into what he's saying, make suggestions on what he's doing, or poo-poo on his opinions. Give him all the room and space he wants and needs to be himself safely, and he'll be able to do that with other people while he's out there. It all sounds so simple. All right, so aside from connection, how am I gonna what's the next in my plan to move forward? I need to remind myself that he's not done growing, learning, developing, or becoming. He has so much time to get to wherever it is that he's going. I don't have to rush him through a phase just because it's hard on me. I have done this in the past. I have wished away my children's infancy because I don't like infancy. It's needy, it's nagging, it's exhausting. Hey, don't get me wrong, I love babies. I love other people's babies, but when mine were babies, I could not wait for it to be over. And I don't want to fall into the trap of always wishing that they were at the next phase of their life, because then I'll be missing out on some pretty important things that they're going through now. And the third sort of key to my plan moving forward is to look inside myself. I don't have control over my son. I have a lot of control over a lot of aspects of his life, but I do not control him. I never have, I never will. Hard pill to swallow for a control freak like me, but I'm recovering. And so I want to remember what it's like to be that age and how weird and self-conscious I felt. And I want to empathize instead of criticize. Not going to happen 100% of the time, and not going to be easy when it does. Looking inside myself, I also want to take time for myself, which I'm not very good at doing, however and whenever I need it. Because a stressed out mama is nobody's idea of a good time. I know you guys can understand that. And as I mentioned before, most of the stuff that irks me about my son and my daughter are the parts of him that remind me of me. So where are those parts of me now? Are they healed? I don't know, I can take a little look around there. I can do some exploring in there. And also, what would I have liked to hear from a parent at that age? What would have been important for me to hear? What messaging would have helped me? Is that going to help him? I don't know, but it's worth a shot, right? Empathy. That's my plan. So in closing, I just really want to let you guys know that I'm struggling a lot of days, and I am soaring through other days because it's a tough gig. The toughest gig for me. So I'm going to encourage you to please, please, please share with me your thoughts and ideas and suggestions and takeaways from anything that I'm talking about today, because we're all a really important part of this community, and your voice needs to be heard, not just my voice. So please always offer me your feedback, suggestions, and ask me questions. I am happy to meet you there. So I have a couple sources of information that I used for today's episode. I'm going to put those in the description. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today. I know that your time is your greatest commodity. So thank you again. And until next time, let's be honest and kind.